Welcome to Running It Back, the NBA Bubble Wrap Edition. We're wrapping up the NBA playoffs, the NBA Finals, where LeBron James went tete-a-tete, mano a mano with one Jimmy Buckets Butler. But before we get into any of that, I want to welcome to Running It Back, Tarlin Ray.
Fantastic to be here.
Yeah, man.
I read that Anthony Davis will not go to Disney World for at least 2 years, and they may boycott playing Orlando.
I could see that. A little post-traumatic stress anytime that they think of Mickey Mouse.
They're letting Rachel Nichols out of the bubble.
Yeah.
Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy. Jeff Van Gundy may step out and have a job. Like, oh, there's people that may want me to coach.
Yeah.
So it is fascinating to see what the NBA pulled off, but look forward to this bubble wrap show.
Bubble wrap, and then the NBA Finals MVP, LeBron James. The Lakers fan in you must be pleased. So I think we'll want to talk about what do they say, gold and
purple? Would you say we're spoiled? Let's talk about it, because when is the last time the Knicks won a
Is it the purple and gold? Is that what you call it? You call them
purple and gold.
Purple comes first?
I think you're saying that. You didn't hear my question. I'm just trying to remember.
I would say like the lilac and ecru. I would call them.
Still not answering my question. When is the last time?
I'm sorry. What was your, I'll clean it up in post.
The longest drought. We went 1988 to 2000, 12 years, and I thought that was eternity. And then we had the three-peat. Mm-hmm. And then we went probably, I think it was 7 years, Kobe and Paul Gasol went back, or won 2 championships. Mm-hmm. And then we had to go 10 long years before we won again.
You're the Yankees fans the Yankees fans of basketball. Congratulations. You're welcome. You're welcome. Enjoy
I just want to make sure that everyone knows it is our town.
Yeah.
All these Clipper fans that thought it was their year, please go away.
Yeah, man. It was an interesting year, and we were on the record having some questions about the viability of the bubble when it was launching. We were concerned about it. Another show we did talk about when Magic announced he had HIV back in 1991. We did a really interesting episode about that when the bubble was starting. And you got to give Adam Silver and Chris Paul and the Players Association and all ESPN and ABC, everybody who was involved in this, the fact that they pulled it off. Again, thank you, Lou Williams, for reminding us it could have gone sideways with an order of
always welcome to come in
with an order of chicken wings.
Love to get some chicken wings.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of he's Lou Williams, but he had an early J.R. Smith moment, and thankfully J.R. Smith is grabbing taking his shirt off and grabbing the trophy first. The Larry O'Brien, this team was a bunch of goofballs, the Lakers. I got to say, I wound up rooting for them, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, because I wasn't a huge Jimmy Buckets fan. I know a lot of people are big Jimmy Buckets. I know his huge competitor, did amazing work throughout this run, but we'll also want to get into that. But yeah, man, what does this bring to mind for you as a Lakers fan? How does this compare to other Lakers teams you've pulled for in the past? How does this championship feel relative to others? Will it have an asterisk? Speak please now for Laker Nation.
100% should not be no asterisks. We played almost a full regular season, and then everyone played through the same environment. The one thing that you would say is that the same sleeping in a hotel, not being able to see their families. But the one thing you'll say is, some guys that went all world and had some great series, they were shooting practice shots, and potentially it's because they didn't have fans, but everyone was dealing with the same. It was a level playing field.
Yeah.
So, and you add on that some of the guys didn't come. So our starting shooting guard, because his son is immunocompromised, did not come. Avery Bradley did not come to the bubble.
Yeah.
So we overcame a lot. We picked up J.R. Smith.
Yeah.
Come on, that should be.
But also, you did have playoff Rondo, and little did we know playoff Rondo is still out there. But he definitely reminded us all that playoff Rondo is still there, and he was able to bring it to that next level. I think the point that Scottie Pippen, I think, is probably the most noted criticism of this run, and not even a critique. I think it's more just a qualification. It's just like when the Dream Team won, that wasn't NBA basketball either. And I think you can, when they play at the Drew, or when they played at while Michael Jordan was recording Space Jam,
Right.
It was just a different product. And I think the fact that the fans on the road, the way Reggie Miller thrived.
Yep, I agree.
Like he was inspired by the road game. And I think Reggie Miller probably would have been inspired by the shooting dynamics in the bubble as well. But I just think there is a little bit of like, you're playing in a completely different flavor of the game. Rucker Park is another one. If you wanted to have NBA players play at Rucker, for example, I think different players would perform better than others. And I think that's why it's tough to benchmark this playoff season, these finals, against how people would have performed in a traditional NBA finals, because the competitive dynamics, the arena, like everything was different. But it doesn't, to me, that doesn't discount the quality of play. Like, I think the level of basketball that was played in this playoffs, even this NBA finals, although game 6 was a bit of a yawn, but also because the level of defense that the Lakers played in game 6 just shut it all down. So I think I too would agree, don't give them an asterisk, give them full credit for this championship, because it's just they played in a different venue around with different dynamics. But I think the level of competitive basketball that they had to achieve, they were at that higher plane. And what was really interesting was that a lot of us didn't anticipate Jimmy Butler to be someone who could hang at that level, and not just hang at that level, but also elevate his team to believe that they could win multiple times when it seemed like they could have just laid down. Last point there is, I think a lot of teams did lay down more quickly in the bubble because they were in the bubble and because it's 2020. So I think the way Milwaukee went out, the way the Clippers went out, I think there were a lot of teams that were just spent and they just wanted to get out of there.
I agree with that. So you asked, can't rank this as one of the best teams ever. You do have to give them a lot of credit because they were picked to win the championship.
Yeah.
Despite it being a crazy year, they did win the championship.
Yeah. The overdog delivers. Yeah.
And the LeBron at the end saying that the franchise, Genie, Pelinka, he wanting his respect. I think that's right. The Lakers were the fact that we had Magic come in, pick up playoff Rondo because he wanted to have people that were around LeBron that had high IQ.
Yeah.
And then got crushed for that. Magic leaving unceremoniously, dumping everything on Pelinka. Sounded like there was some politics there, a lot of drama. And then for them to work through that, for LeBron to get hurt last year and come back and have what is an amazing year, you just got to give a lot to LeBron and that team and AD. So what they did is bring back hope to Laker Nation. They had hope with
poor things
when LeBron came, but also more importantly, add on the weight of losing Kobe Bryant, who is one of the biggest icons in not only American NBA but American sports. So you add that on top, that pressure where they wanted to do it. They kept saying they wanted to do it for Kobe. Yeah. So I think it's a truly special moment. The bottom, not the best team, but probably they overcame more obstacles than I've seen any team overcome. Yeah. I'm a proud member of Laker Nation.
Yeah. And I do think there's some advantages to the elderly set of the NBA in that you don't have to fly. It's the same time zone all the time. You sleep in the hotel. You're like, the 20-year-olds are like, why can't I be going out to the club? Like, where's Lou, and why didn't Lou bring me? Whereas if you're playoff Rondo, you're either in the gym or you're eating something nutritious or you're getting some sleep, and
or having some wine. It's amazing you talked about Adam Silver, but the individuals that are part of pulling off the bubble, operations group, the woman who runs events. She literally was running an event every day for 90 plus days. There was a wine cellar in Florida that was the sort of feeding the players daily, 20 plus orders a day. They were running a city
Mm-hmm.
They went from having their own ownerships, having events, and then
Yeah.
showing up for 3 hours to running a city
Yeah.
for 90 plus days.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
So we'll leave it at that. The bubble, we were concerned. If
Yeah.
you think back to our Magic show, thought that was almost impossible that bubble wouldn't burst. And that also, I actually think they make it through, but
Yeah. Yeah.
happy to have hoops.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure we talked about was who were the most memorable bubble performances, just spanning through time, going all the way back to what seems like years ago to like the end of July into August when this all started. Which stories jump to mind? Which players are the kings of the bubble? A quick shout out to the guys who do Game of Zones. I think we're going to be coming back to that a little bit more, but they do some interesting storytelling and narrative development around everything that happened. I think you didn't even have to do a lot of development around the bubble. Like the narratives just emerged immediately. But what are some of the, maybe going through from July right on through, what were the performances that jumped to mind? What are the stories? We mentioned Lou Williams famously getting caught off campus at the strip club buying some chicken wings, which thank you, Lou, for that, because that will always go down in history. We'll continue to refer to that one. But what are the other stories? What are the other teams or player dynamics or narratives that really captured your attention?
I think there's two, Jamal Murray and his ascension. I think great to see that battle with Donovan Mitchell in the second round, but what he did even against the Lakers and for them to take down the Clippers, I think he truly is a star in this league. He is a shot maker, left hand, right hand. And that combo with Jokic is one to watch for years. I thought they were a well-coached team.
Yeah.
And caused some problems for Lakers.
Yeah, and just quick on that one too, I would say Jamal Murray surprised me in how much leadership ability he had as well. Like outside of his ability to play, I thought the way he handled the post-game interviews and the way he just was authentically throwing himself into this in all the right ways, in a lot of ways. And he had a great partner in Jokic. I think it's a great story to be told, but we do like to note where leadership is demonstrated. And I was surprised to see from a player that young, I hadn't really understood his game as much. In addition to how phenomenal a player he is, he really did step up to meet the challenge, and his team was rallying around him. So I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on that from you.
Yep. I'd say number two with Clippers, just their performance. Less about putting the ball in the basket, but more just hearing that Paul George wasn't well liked.
Yeah.
They lacked the togetherness that if you think back to the Celtics championship and Rivers being able to pull a team together. So it's almost surprising that George, who is seen as an all-world talent, was seen as the guy who was toxic for that culture, where Clippers made a deep run without Kawhi and George in the past. And then you look to Doc, who we run it back to looking at blackballed in 2014 with the Clippers. And then the way that he was a true leader in the bubble, talking about social unrest and the injustices that we're seeing out in the world. So I felt like he was a true leader, and then to get let go or to feel like he lost the team, it's tough to see a bubble. Would that have happened in the bubble? Don't know.
Right.
Because I have so much just respect for Doc, at least what you can see from afar as a leader. Just breaking news, Tyronn Lue is now the coach of the Clippers. He just signed a 5-year deal. I just want to make sure our crackpot team is in
place. We don't want to step over that and forget about it. You know?
And the last one is, and there were some injuries, but it's amazing how you saw guys who were laboring, hurt, and how they were just playing through injuries. And for me, as a Laker fan, to see Anthony Davis go down repeatedly, or LeBron to get hit, you realize that playoff basketball, these guys are pampered. At least they got a hotel room. They were all battling through stuff, and they would just show up the next game. Jimmy Butler, like you see like close-ups of sprained ankles. That would be done, and they're just taping it up. Just a lot of credit to those guys when they're fighting through the playoffs. And I think across the board, you can name teams where people are just battling. I think that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Although I'll just reinforce the point that I think for the Clippers, Doc and the Clippers, and for Milwaukee, I thought some of the world outside of the bubble affected those teams more to the point that I don't know if they had enough reserve left to,
Yeah.
to really go after it in the way that Jimmy Butler, from the start, he said this is a business trip. And he treated it that way and was able to pull that team together. So great artist. We got a quick nod to Dame Lillard early on, was an interesting story. Phoenix also, amazing story.
Didn't make it, but watch out for Phoenix next year.
Watch out for
I
Phoenix.
love Monty Williams as a coach.
Yeah, Luka's game where some of us got overly excited after Luka had a transcendent performance. We'll keep an eye on him, but a lot of players stepping up. It did feel like it could have been a turning of the page, but I think it's another win for old man ball. So we'll see how history tells the story. But the other thing we wanted to do, Tarlin, was just go through roster by roster on the Lakers squad versus on the Heat squad. The other thing that was fantastic about that final series is just there's these personalities and quirky games, and there's a lot of, even though, again, a little disappointing in game 6, I think it was a more competitive series, a more engaging thing to watch than many of us might have expected going in. I did say I expected a gentleman's sweep, and I believe
I did say it would go 6.
You were hoping for 4 and then thinking
that it would go 6.
Hedging for 6. Yes, and then you were able to deliver on that prediction, which was great. But we touched on a little bit already. Start with either the Heat or the Lakers. But who's performing?
Where did KCP come from?
Yes.
Where did starting to play, so he channeled a little Avery Bradley. Maybe he got on FaceTime saying, hey, man, you got to move your puppies.
Yeah. Right.
But playing defense against Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero and Jay, they sprint through their cuts.
Yeah.
They sprint off screens.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just in a track meet, and they were staying glued. So it was amazing to see his activity on the defensive end, and then his activity on the offensive end.
Yeah.
Where in the past you're like, KCP's fine. Maybe make a couple jumpers.
He and Kuzma were thought of at around the same level, and there's no comparison anymore in terms of the playoff chops, the intangibles. I do hear that Marcus Smart was FaceTiming with Avery Bradley while KCP was walking by, and KCP picked up some of the court sense defensive mad intangibles of one Marcus Smart. And honestly, I'd say between him and Rondo, like the Lakers did have more depth from their third man on down the line than I think a lot of us were expecting. And KCP probably, between him and where would you put him relative to Rondo? Because those two, I think, were my top two.
I put Rondo in season while he's making plays. I'm often saying no. In the playoffs, in the finals, he knew exactly what was going on. So in terms of being a pace setter, in terms of giving LeBron, who normally is a dominant ball handler, an opportunity to only play roughly 35 minutes a game. Yeah. It's because Rondo, you had all the faith in the world in Rondo. So slight notch above, I'll give Rondo. I love what KCP provided. And then you can't forget what Dwight Howard did just to create some presence in the middle. Mm-hmm. And you think back to Dwight and trying to play with the ultimate Mamba in Kobe and couldn't handle the role and the position. Mm-hmm. And for him to take really hard constructive feedback, play his role, I think that was huge for Lakers as well. So they all settled into what they were supposed to be. Yeah. Yeah. And even the clowns on their bench almost, they made that team a little less intense. I think LeBron's challenge sometimes, is that he can be almost too wired in. And I think some of the goofiness of JaVale McGee and J.R. Smith and Dwight Howard, those three in particular, I think it was hard for LeBron to be too serious about it. And then what about AD, though? Because AD, where do you think he's at coming out of this? There were a few games where he wasn't 100% there, but when he was there, he's truly a transcendent talent. He's still relatively early in his career. So thoughts there? I would say I just had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how good. I did not realize how good Anthony Davis is.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have been right. You said I hedged on the 6th game. I was absolutely positively wrong that Bam could check AD or that anyone can.
Right.
He is.
Bam was hurt, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Even before,
Yep.
AD is just a problem on the offensive end. He can get his shot. He obviously hit a big 3 to help the Lakers. But more importantly, what he does defensively,
Yeah.
for him to hurt, guard, switch over to Jimmy Buckets in the last few games, I just never realized how good AD is. And we hope that we can keep him, but he will be leading us for years to come. But I think he comes out. If you have a top 5 players in the league, if you don't have AD in your top 5, it's crazy. And he was all NBA first team for a reason.
Yeah. Although I do wonder about him versus, say, Giannis. Giannis is clearly the leader on the team. I don't know if AD's ready to get to that level. I think he needed LeBron to get to this level. And that'll be an interesting thing for us to watch as his career progresses. He's got the benefit of playing with LeBron, and hopefully that as he matures, maybe he picks up a little bit of LeBron's leadership mojo. But yeah, really fascinating conversation on the Lakers side. But then what about on the Heat side? What are the narratives? What's coming out of this for you? What are you going to remember about their team?
So I think you got to start with Jimmy Buckets. Yes, he's an all-star. Maybe he's a top 15 player.
Yeah.
Chicago, short stint, Timberwolves. Then 1 year at Philly, which it goes to show Philly's exit that he really had an impact on that team. And then he finally found his way to a place where Jimmy found his people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the person that really knew where Jimmy should play is Dwayne Wade when they had a chance to play together in Chicago. But for Jimmy to treat it like a business trip.
Yeah.
For him to lead that squad without having to pour in 40, but to play within the system, to play hard, and to find other people that are willing to play hard with him. He was the heartbeat of that team.
Yeah.
And I think people should give him his due respect. We often will listen to the narrative or whatever stories coming out of a particular team, but people weren't willing to rise to his work ethic, didn't have the same determination. And he found a group in Pat Riley and Spoelstra that are a bunch of grinders. So he really stood out. I always knew he was good, but not in control. We talked about this. LeBron, back in when he was playing against Golden State, he carried the J.R. Smith, Dellavedova, Tristan Thompson team. It was all LeBron. You had weapons on the Heat, but Hero and Bam and Duncan Robinson are better. But when Bam was out, the Hero, Jay Crowder, and just controlling the team, he controlled the full flow of the game. And I haven't seen a player do that consistently every trip down since LeBron. So I just give him a lot of credit. I guess my number 2.
Well, just let me jump in real quick on Jimmy, though, just because there are debates happening these days, Tarlin. So I just want to get my my counterpoint in there. But he reminds me of the good player at the playground who finds the super team that he knows he can run with and runs with them. But if he can't play with that team, he just makes everybody else on the court, all 9 other players, miserable. So that's why the jury's out whether a different player could have done more in the other situations that Jimmy Buckets was in. But he's definitely demonstrated that if things align for him, there's a transcendent level to his play and his leadership ability that none of us can deny, even the Jimmy Buckets haters, where I probably skew in that direction, truth be told. But it'll be remembered as a legendary finals because of what he did. I don't think anybody expected that team to get to where they would get to. And the fact that they stole 2 games in that series, it actually puts him 1 game ahead of what Latrell Sprewell did in 1999. So I think people will remember Jimmy Butler for his performance.
I thought in the pregame we said that 99 was totally irrelevant. Why are we bringing?
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot our production meeting. So yeah, but you were continuing with Heat players.
The only other one, he's 20 years old. I don't think you really even know how good he's going to be. But Tyler Hero is a problem as well.
Yeah.
And
Do we need another hero? No, we don't. We don't. One is good. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And we talked about this actually before, looking at all the Kentucky players and giving a little credit to Calipari, but
Yeah.
the strut that guy has in the court and just the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's playing in an in-between role. He handles the ball a little bit. He's playing a little shooting guard.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is the right position for him, but to be that young and to cause so many problems for Danny Green, who's a great cover, and KCP.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see a trajectory. A little bum that Bam got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see his game and really feel bad for Goran, who is just a grinder and just really didn't have a chance to play. Mm-hmm. So those are the two sort of the KCP.
Could have been a different series if had the Heat stayed healthy. They could have probably pushed it to 7 at least. You never know. That is why, in fact, they play the game. The only other player on the Heat that I would want to give a nod to, and I thought when Bam got hurt, we might have actually seen him get a little bit of playing time. We talked about him last episode of this show, was Udonis Haslem, where I thought he might get at least some minutes, but I think he was there more for moral support. He was like Obi-Wan in the Empire and Return of the Jedi. After he was almost gone, I couldn't tell if that was him or was he a hologram? I wasn't quite sure, but yeah, man, I'm super excited for how this season turned out. And then I think we had some other ideas for maybe some other NBA shows that are relevant now down the road a little bit. Something about Doc Rivers and what's going on with all the moves around the NBA and lots of stuff on the horizon. Any concluding comments as we wrap up the bubble here, Tarlin?
Yeah, so we will one of the things we will come back is we will have our own GOAT conversation.
Yes.
And that could lead into other controversial things we may say about the NBA.
And the logo.
I think that we need to have, and my mom actually had a conversation with her about the logo, who should be the new logo. And she's very opinionated about that. So I'll make sure we have to have that as a show.
Yeah.
But in regards to the bubble, so once again, I'll just close. Shout out to the NBA. As you're seeing, NFL have some real struggles playing during this, what is a horrible pandemic. Mm-hmm. MLB is almost to the finish line with their playoffs. Shout out to just the operations staff and everyone that helped out there. Shout out to Russell Westbrook, who left an $8,000 tip for his hotel staff, the room staff. Mm-hmm. But you got to give it to, I'm going to give him his respect. LeBron James. I still remember going to see him when he was 17 years old in Pauley Pavilion to go play against Aaron Aflalo as a high schooler traveling across the country. And he was the chosen one. Yeah. And he, despite his 4-6 finals record, has delivered and delivered for 3 teams. A team in Cleveland had never won, brought Miami back, and then finished off what is a 10-year-long drought for the Lakers. Yeah. So you got to give him his respect. Yeah. Pretty amazing player. Yeah. And more to come on that, because who knows what the next, say, 5 years of his career look like. We're going to have to come back to this a little more to put LeBron in his correct historical context, at least from our perspective. And thanks as always for listening. Tarlin, always a joy to get time with you here on Running It Back. If you like what you're hearing, tell your friends, wrest their phone from them and download this to let everybody know how great Running It Back is. We love doing it. We appreciate that you're listening. We'll be back again soon.